Welcome to our first day of the e-learning videos. So this video is going to be over the homework that you turned in yesterday. So if you want to go ahead and make sure that you have your paperwork that corresponds to the question, so that way you can make sure that you're able to do the right work. If you don't have the right work, it's probably best that you go ahead and write the correct work, so that way you have the right answer. All right, number 1. Trey could drive his car 130 miles on 4 gallons of gas. At this rate, how many gallons of gas will Trey need in order to drive 195 miles? So the key giveaway here is at this rate, and that's a proportion. So we're going to put this in proportion. So I'm just going to do 130, that's the miles, over 4 gallons of gas. All right, and then 185 would go on top because miles goes across from miles. All right, so in order to solve this, I would do 195 times 4. And I get 780. Now I'm going to go ahead and take that and I'm going to divide it by 130. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and cross out these zeros. So 13 into 78, 6 times. So you would need 6 gallons of gas for 195 miles. Number 2. Which linear equation represents the relationship in the table? So there's a couple of ways you can do this. The first way is to just plug in. So I would take x is negative 2 and y is 13. So I would take negative 2 for x. So negative 5 times negative 2 plus 1. Negative 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1. That's 11. And what I should get is negative 13. So that doesn't work. Alright, so let's do another one. So we're going to do B. So this one's A. Let's do B. 5 times negative 2 minus 4. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10 minus 4. That's negative 14. So again, that's still not negative 13. Alright, let's try C. 4 times negative 2 minus 5. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8 minus 5. That's negative 13. So that one works. But let's try another one. Let's try this 2 over here to see if that works. So 4 times 2 minus 5. So 4 times 2 is 8 minus 5. That is 3. So C is our answer. Number 3. Which inequality has the same solution set as negative 4t plus 2 is less than or equal to 3? Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve the inequality that's given, then I'll go through the answer choices. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides because I want to get t by itself. So I have negative 4t is less than or equal to 3 minus 2 is 1. Next I'm going to divide by negative 4. So t is greater than or equal to, excuse me, t is greater than or equal to negative 1/4. And the sign flips because I divided by a negative. So the answer to this one is t is greater than or equal to negative 1/4. Alright, so I'm just going to start with A. So 4t plus 3 is greater than or equal to 2. Minus 3 minus 3. 4t is greater than or equal to 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Divide by 4, divide by 4. T is greater than or equal to negative 1/4. And we have the same solutions here. And I did not switch the sign because I did not divide by a negative. 4 is positive. So when I divided by this 4, it was positive, so it doesn't switch the sign. The answer is F. Number 4. Which problem can be solved using the inequality 6x plus 8 is less than or equal to 50? All right, so we know that this 6, that's my slope. That's what's happening per something. Or that's what also called your constant rate of change. This 8, that's going to be your initial value. That's where you're starting. All right, so that's what I want to use. And then, of course, the sign, which is less than or equal to. Remember, those are opposite keywords, so that's going to be something like at most, at least. So those are the words that you want to look for. All right, so let's read A. The cost to rent a canoe at Silver Lake is a basic charge of $8, so that would be an initial fee, 8. An additional charge of $6 for each hour of the rental, so that would also work because that's my slope. Ramon can spend at most, so that's going to be your less than or equal to sign, $50. How many hours can he rent a canoe? So these work, so the answer is A. All right, let's move on to the next page. Number 5. So this page is going to deal with a little bit of probability here. Kenya tosses a quarter 2 times. What is the probability that she tosses a head the first time and a tail the second time? Alright, so there are 2 probabilities. So the first probability, probability 1, and then probability 2. So for the first one, I'm looking for a head. And so the probability of getting a head is 1 over 2. For tails, again, that's still 1 over 2. When you have 2 probabilities, you have to multiply, so I have 1/4. So the answer is B. Number 6, what is the sample space for flipping a coin 3 times? So what we could do is go ahead and write out a tree diagram. So the first time I flip, I can either get a heads or a tails. And if I flip a heads the first time, I can get a heads or tails. And then for the third, I can get a heads or a tails for each one of these. And then for tails, I can either get a head or a tails. And then for the third flip, it would be heads and tails, and then heads and tails again. So then you would read each option. So this would be like a heads, 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 or a heads, heads, tails, or a heads, tails, heads, or a heads, tails, tails. Or I could have a tails, heads, heads, a tails, heads, tails, 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 head, or a tails, tails, tails. And the one that shows that is J. Alright, next problem. Midori tosses a number cube with the numbers 7 through 12. She then spins a spinner with 4 equal sections colored red, yellow, green, and blue. What is the probability that she tosses an even number and spins red? Alright, so what I'm going to do is just to be very meticulous here, I'm going to write out all the numbers. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And what's even is we have 8, 10, and 12. So if I'm getting an even number, my probability is 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, which is just 1/2. And then I want to also find the probability for red. So the probability of red, I have red, yellow, green, and blue. So 1 red out of 4. So I'm going to multiply those. And I get 1/8. So the answer is B. Number 8. Samuel has a bag with 3 white marbles, 4 yellow marbles, and 5 green marbles. What is the probability of drawing a white marble followed by a yellow marble without replacing the white marble? Alright, so we're going to look for the probability of white, then yellow. So the first thing I want to do is just add them up. So I have 3 white, 4 yellow, 5 green. When I add those up, I get 12. So the first one is white, so that would be 3 over 12. I'm not going to simplify that. I was, but not yet. But then they're not going to replace it without replacing. So what happens is, because you're keeping it, not putting it back in, your total goes down. And so for yellow, it would be 4 out of yellow. Now I'm going to multiply this, and again, I can go ahead and cross cancel. So this would be 1, this would be 3. So what I would get is 3 over 33. I can simplify that. That's 1 over 11. So the answer is 8. All right, number 9. Catherine hits the bullseye 60% of the time in archery practice. Select the model that could be used to simulate the experimental probability that Catherine will hit a bullseye. Assume the simulation is performed 40 times to predict how many times she might hit the bullseye in 40 attempts. Alright, so if it's 60%, what I'm looking for is a combination that's going to give me 60%. Alright, so let's look at A. Tossing 2 coins and counting the number of times they do not both land tail side up. Well, the probability would be a half and a half if you're not looking for tails. So 1/2 and 1/2 would be 1/4. Oops. It's 1/2 times 1/2. And that's 25%. So that's not it. Drawing 1 marble from a bag containing 6 blue and 14 yellow marbles and counting the times yellow marble is selected. So this would be 14 over 20. And if I simplify this, I get 7/10. So that's 70% because 7/10 is a decimal 0.7. So that would be 70 as a percent. So that's not going to work. C. Rolling 2 numbered cubes with the numbers 1 through 6 and counting the number of times the cubes show different numbers. Okay, well, that's going to be a little bit more rigorous to explain. So if that's the answer, I will come back to it. But let me go ahead and read D. Using a spinner divided into 5 equal sections, 2 red and 3 green, and counting the number of times the spinner lands on green. Alright, so let's figure out that probability. So there are 3 green sections over 5. So as a decimal, that's 0.6, and as a percent, that's 60%. So the answer here would be D. Alright, now let's move on over to the arithmetic. Alright, number 10. So we have a decimal in the divisor. Move it once on the inside, decimal straight up. Go and add my 0 here. 18 into 36 goes in 2 times. 2 times 18, 36. When I subtract, I get 0. Drop your 8. 18 into 8 is 0. 0 times 18 is 0. Subtract, get 8. Drop your 6. 18 into 86. It's 4 times. Let's see here. 2. That's 72. When I subtract, I get 14. Drop a 7. 18 into 147. About 8 times. 4, 6. 144. When I subtract, I get 3. Drop here 0. 18 into 30, 1 time. 1, that's 12. So the answer is 204 and 81 hundredths. Alright, let's subtract. 19,896 hundredths. Alright, so 3 minus 6 can't do that. 2 becomes a 1, 13, 7. 5 is a 4, 11, 2. 4, 1, 7 is a 6, 10, 9, 16, so 8, 0, 5. 50,814 and 27 hundredths. Alright, division of fractions. 3 times 7 is 21 plus 2 is 23 over 3. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and flip it, so times 5 over 27. Alright, now I can't cross cancel this, so let's just go ahead and multiply straight across. So let's do 23 times 15. That's 115. And then 27 times 3, I know that's 81. Alright, then from there we need to QRD, so 81 into 115. Goes in one time, 81. Alright, so the answer here is 1 and 34 over 81. Alright, next. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 5 is 59. So I have 59 over 9 times 11 over 3. And again, I'm not able to cross cancel, so I'm going to multiply straight across. So 649 over 27. And then let me go ahead and divide this out. This goes in 2 times, so 54. When I subtract 10, drop a 9, so that'll go in 4 times. Oops, that's 28. So we get 108. When I subtract, I get 1. So the answer is 24 and 1 over 27. Alright, now the subtraction of fractions. Alright, so the first thing I need to find is the common denominator. So the common denominator is 21. How do I get from 7 to 21? That's times 3, so 1 times 3 is 3. How do I get from 3 to 21? That's times 7. 2 times 7 is 14. I cannot subtract 3 from 21, so let's borrow. This becomes a 7. This is 24 over 21. So I get 4 and 10 over 21. Alright, next. Negative 8 divided by negative 4 squared plus negative 8. Okay, negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2, because a negative divided by negative is a positive. That's squared plus negative 8. 2 squared is 4, so 4 plus negative 8. The signs are different. Negative 4. And the last one. So when we add, just make sure your decimals are lined up. We're at 4,433 and let's don't want to work. Alright, 2 plus 5 is 7. 15 is plus 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. Plus 8 is 15. Plus 3 is 18. 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 6 is 11. Plus 3 is 14. Carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 7, 14. 14 plus 4 is 18. Carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 7, 15, plus 4, 19. Carry. So we have 29,848 and 700. Alright, that concludes this part of the lesson. So if you have a question or comment on any of the work, just leave it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Alright, we'll talk to you next time.